The clang echoed like a gunshot. "I can play," he said quietly. The room froze. Malik's leg braces weren't a weakness. They were part of how he moved through the world. Quiet, deliberate, disciplined. Anton scoffed. "Then entertain us." Malik limped to the bench, braces scraping tile. His mother whispered, "Baby, don't." He met her eyes, steady. "Daddy said music don't belong to anyone." He pressed the first key, soft, trembling, then another. Within seconds, laughter vanished. The boy they mocked began to play like a storm, remembering its name. This is Black Stories, where the pain of prejudice is told, and justice always finds its voice. If you believe genius doesn't need permission, tap like and subscribe, because in the next minutes, you'll watch a janitor's son turn a room built for silence into a stage for truth, and make a stolen legacy sing its real name. Before the piano, before the humiliation, there was just a boy, a mother, and a promise whispered in a tiny apartment above a laundromat. "Don't let the world tell you what your hands can't do," his father, Caleb Brooks, used to say. Back then, Malik's legs were already in braces, thin and stiff. But when his father played, he forgot about them. Caleb would let him press one key, one note at a time, and every sound was a spark. Music became their language, a way to say everything they couldn't afford to feel out loud. Every Sunday he'd watch from the pew as his father's name appeared in the bulletin, his only stage. Then one rainy evening, headlights flashed too bright. Caleb pushed him out of the street. The truck didn't stop. Malik woke in a hospital bed to silence where his father's laughter used to live. No lawsuit, no payout, just a funeral bill and a piano they couldn't afford to keep. Evelyn sold their piano to pay the funeral bill, but some nights when she cleaned the church alone, Malik would limp inside and find the old piano in the corner. He'd play with fingertips, still learning to forgive the world. The janitor caught him once and said, "If anyone asks, you're just dusting the keys." That became their secret. He practiced every night he could, learning Chopin by ear from a broken radio, building rhythm from the sound of his mother's mop bucket sloshing in the hallway. By 12, he could play pieces most conservatory students struggled with. He just never had an audience that wanted to see him. On Malik's dresser sat a dog-eared church bulletin, Caleb Books, Special Music, Hands That See, dated months before Varga's debut. His mother warned, "The world don't always clap for the right people, baby." He'd answer, "Then I'll make them listen." At school, the kids mocked his braces. One music teacher refused to let him audition, saying, "We need someone who can handle stage movement." He didn't argue, he just went home and played harder. So when he followed his mother to the concert hall that night, he wasn't dreaming of stages. He just wanted to see a grand piano up close, to imagine what it might sound like under his own hands. But fate didn't offer invitations. It offered insults. And when Anton Varga turned, laughing, calling him out in front of hundreds, Malik saw his mother's fear flicker. The same fear she wore at hospital billing counters and eviction offices, that the world was about to remind them of their place. Only this time, Malik felt something different rise in him. Not anger, not defiance, something quieter, something like a decision. He looked at the piano and thought of his father's words. "Don't let the world tell you what your hands can't do." Then, as laughter rolled through the room, he took his first step towards the stage. And no one, not even his mother, could tell whether he was walking toward humiliation or history. The Fairmont Conservatory Hall wasn't a stage. It was a temple, built to remind people who belonged inside it. Gold trim, velvet seats, chandeliers like frozen lightning. Names of donors engraved on every wall, all of them the same color, the same lineage. Anton Varga was its high priest. Every month he hosted a private masterclass for Boston's elite, donors, journalists, and a few hand-picked prodigies desperate for approval. To them, his arrogance wasn't cruelty, it was culture. He'd say things like, "Talent is inherited, not taught," and they'd nod, pretending it was wisdom. When Evelyn Brooks got the cleaning contract that week, she didn't know Anton's event was scheduled. She just needed the overtime. She'd asked Malik to wait quietly in the back room while she mopped the marble lobby. But hierarchy doesn't care about boundaries. When the child of the help entered the temple, order had to be restored. Anton noticed Malik the second he limped too close to the piano. To him, it wasn't curiosity. It was contamination. That's why he made the "for fun" comment, not because he wanted to hear the boy play, but because he wanted to remind everyone watching that some people exist only for amusement. And the audience loved it, the cruel kind of laughter that hides behind wine glasses. Every hall like this has its Evelyn, a worker who knows how to disappear. And every Anton has his entourage, donors and critics who think cruelty sounds like genius. When Evelyn tried to speak, one of the patrons cut her off. "Please let the boy try. It'll be adorable." They meant harmless, entertaining, forgettable. But that moment, that single act of permission from the powerful, sealed the room's fate. Because the hierarchy was about to collapse under its own arrogance. Weeks earlier, while researching his mentorship program, Sophia Land, a music journalist, had flagged one odd email chain that never matched the album credits. Up on the balcony, the same music journalist, Sophia Lang, had come to profile Anton's Philanthropy Through Art campaign. But instead, she wrote one line in her notebook. "The moment a prodigy enters a world that never invited him." Down below, Malik's mother stood at the edge of the stage, torn between fear and pride. She knew this world, how it smiled at your face and shut its doors behind your back, and she knew what would happen if her son failed. The whispers started. "Whose kid is that?" "Staff's boy." "Playing Anton's piano?" "Oh, this will be rich." Cameras lifted. Anton leaned back, the smirk of a man too comfortable to fear consequences. "Let's see," he murmured, "if talent really skips generations." And that's when Malik adjusted his seat, placed his trembling hands on the keys, and the power structure of that hall began its slow, inevitable crack. The first note was hesitant, barely a whisper. Someone snickered. Anton grinned, satisfied. "This is what happens when amateurs touch art," he murmured, loud enough for the front row to hear. But then came the second note, then the third. And suddenly the room changed shape. Malik's fingers moved like they were remembering something older than training, the way his father's hand used to guide his over-chipped ivory keys. The melody was familiar, but the phrasing wasn't. It breathed like speech. It wasn't mimicry. It was translation. Pain into music. 30 seconds in, the laughter stopped. By 45, even Anton's posture began to shift. He leaned forward, frowned. This wasn't possible. The boy was weaving Varga's own composition, but differently. Freer, with syncopation that made the original sound cold. He pulled the bridge off the downbeat, leaned into a gospel voicing on the 4, and let the left hand walk. A church-born swing Anton never wrote. He was improving on genius. Evelyn's heart pounded. She wanted to run, to drag her son off that stage before someone punished him for shining too bright. But she couldn't move. She was hearing her late husband in those chords. "Who taught him that?" whispered one of the patrons. "No one," Sophia Lang muttered from the balcony, pressing record on her phone. That's the point. At 1 minute, Anton stood. At 90 seconds, he walked closer, pretending to smile. "That's enough, young man," he said lightly. Malik didn't stop. The melody grew bolder. The boy's right hand climbed octaves while his left kept a heartbeat rhythm, steady and defiant. Anton's smile thinned. "I said that's enough." Evelyn flinched as a security guard shifted near the curtain. The audience, caught between awe and discomfort, watched a silent battle unfold between a master of reputation and a child of raw truth. 2 minutes in, Malik ended the piece not with a flourish, but a whisper, one soft note that hung in the air longer than it should have. Silence. 3 heartbeats, a cough in the balcony, a chair creaked. Then, one pair of hands began to clap, hesitant from the back. Then another and another. But Anton's face was pale. He forced a laugh. "Cute trick," he said, voice tight. "Perhaps next time he'll play something real." The words landed like a slap. Evelyn started forward, but stopped when Malik looked at her and shook his head. He wasn't done. The crowd didn't know it yet, but the real performance hadn't even begun. Anton tried to laugh it off. "Impressive mimicry," he said, though clearly self-taught. But even as the crowd murmured, Malik's quiet voice cut through the tension. "No, sir," he said, eyes steady. "I was taught by the man who wrote this." The room blinked. "What do you mean?" Anton asked, frowning. "My father," Malik said. "He used to play this when I was little. Before your student took his credit." A ripple moved through the room like thunder under silk. Anton's hand froze mid-air. "Excuse me?" Malik's voice stayed calm, too calm for a child. "He played this same melody in our church before your album came out. Same structure, same bridge, same syncopation, only he called it Hands That See." Every phone in the audience rose. The name echoed across the hall, Hands That See. And Sophia Lang, the journalist, whispered to her camera, "That was Anton Varga's breakout piece." She'd already photographed a dated email thread between Varga's assistant and Caleb about that church piece. The timestamps alone could end a career. Anton's practiced charm cracked. "That's ridiculous. Your father, who even is he?" "Caleb Brooks," Malik said softly, "the janitor at West End Conservatory. You told him his music was unpolished. Then 2 months later, it was on your debut record." Gasps exploded. A donor whispered, "That can't be true." Another murmured, "He died last year, didn't he?" "Yes," Malik said. "Hit by a delivery truck. Still waiting on your royalty check, I suppose." The tension snapped like a string pulled too tight. Anton slammed the piano lid shut. Bang! "Enough! You people will believe any sob story if it comes with a melody." The guards moved. Evelyn grabbed Malik's shoulder, ready to flee. But Sophia Lang stepped forward from the balcony, voice ringing through the house mic she'd been given for the donor Q&A segment. "I've reviewed Anton Varga's early drafts and an email thread with Caleb Brooks. The melody doesn't appear until 6 weeks after that exchange. This boy deserves to finish." Anton's voice cracked. "That's a violation of my NDA." But even as he said it, the crowd wasn't listening anymore. The words sounded foreign in a room full of truth. Applause rippled from the back, hesitant at first, then growing, merging with shouts of, "Let him play." Anton's eyes darted between the crowd and the cameras. The power he once wielded through silence was slipping into Malik's hands, one note at a time. And when Malik sat again, brushing the piano lid open, even the chandeliers seemed to tremble. because this wasn't a performance anymore. It was an unveiling. A son rewriting the legacy his father never got to sign. Malik's fingers hovered over the keys. He looked up at Anton, then at the crowd. "This was my father's," he said quietly. "But tonight I'll play it like he meant it, for those who were never allowed to be heard." The first chord hit like a confession. Then the second, sharper, stronger, flooding the hall. Within seconds, the entire room was breathing with him. Each note peeled away a layer of pretense. The melody carried the ache of late nights in small apartments, the echo of janitors whistling tunes in empty conservatories, the heartbeat of generations whose talent was stolen, renamed, repackaged. By 30 seconds in, half the audience was crying. By 45, Sophia Lang's live stream had already hit 20,000 viewers. Anton tried to intervene. "Cut the mic!" But the sound tech froze. No one dared move. The hall wasn't his anymore. Then, a shift. Malik transitioned mid-song, blending the familiar theme of Hands That See with a new bridge no one had ever heard. The harmony rose, climbing toward fury, a storm breaking its cage. And for the first time, Anton's name sounded small. Evelyn covered her mouth, shaking. Her son was channeling something that transcended skill. It was legacy, alive, demanding acknowledgement. Anton staggered forward, voice cracking. For a flicker, guilt crossed his face. Then the mask snapped back. "This is slander!" But the crowd wasn't listening to him anymore. Phones rose like witnesses. Sophia's livestream comment section flooded. "He stole that song. Justice for Caleb Brooks. This boy's playing for every artist erased by the system." 60 seconds in, Malik ended the piece the way his father used to. Not with thunder, but with grace. A single chord, sustained, lingering, holy. Silence followed. Deep, reverent, trembling. Then a sound, one clap, then another, then an eruption. Applause shook the chandeliers. Guests rose to their feet, shouting his name. Anton stood frozen at the piano's edge, a fallen idol watching the audience crown its new god. And through the chaos, Malik looked him dead in the eyes. "My father wrote this for people like you to learn from," he said softly, "not to profit from." Anton's face drained, because in that instant he realized the boy hadn't just exposed him, he'd ended him. By morning, the clip had over 12 million views. Black boy exposes classical fraud. Stolen melody scandal rocks elite music world. Every headline carried Malik's face, the boy who played truth into sound. Anton Varga's publicist tried to control the fire, but the internet didn't want control. It wanted confession. Dozens of artists came forward with eerily similar stories. Ideas lifted, arrangements rebranded, credit erased. Within 72 hours, 6 conservatories opened review portals. 3 labels announced retroactive credit audits. A quiet pattern now screamed in every comment thread. At 45 seconds, the board of the National Conservatory issued a statement. Effective immediately, Anton Varga is suspended pending investigation into intellectual property violations. Anton's sponsors pulled contracts. Music schools removed his portrait from their halls. Even his streaming numbers plummeted. Meanwhile, Malik sat in his mother's kitchen, still in pajamas, untouched cereal in front of him. The world outside was spinning, but inside, it was quiet. The only sound was his father's old piano track playing from a USB stick Sophia Lang had found in the archives. The original demo labeled Caleb Brooks, Hands That See. When Evelyn heard it, she broke. It was her husband's laugh between takes, his humming between notes, his life restored from silence. Malik whispered, "They're hearing him now, Mom." By minute 1, Sophia's interview went live. Malik Brooks didn't just expose plagiarism, he exposed how genius gets buried under prejudice until someone refuses to stay quiet. The clip showed Anton storming off stage, then Malik, small and steady, sitting before the piano, hands trembling, eyes fierce. And while the world debated ethics and copyright law, something deeper shifted. Music academies started recrediting lost composers. Within weeks, donors, not PR teams, petitioned to create a scholarship in Caleb Brooks' name. And the conservatory that once dismissed him offered Evelyn a seat on their new advisory board. But Malik didn't want a scholarship. He wanted to play again, on his own terms. So when the invitation came for a televised special, the son of the forgotten composer, he agreed on one condition. The closing piece would carry both names, Caleb Brooks and Malik Brooks, Hands That See, reclaimed version. When the host asked why, Malik answered simply, "Because justice isn't revenge. It's remembrance." And with that, the story stopped being about theft. It became about restoration. The stage lights dimmed. Cameras rolled, and millions of viewers tuned in to the televised concert titled Hands That See, A Legacy Restored. In the front row sat Evelyn, clutching her late husband's worn sheet music. Beside her, Sophia Lang, the journalist who refused to let the truth be buried. At the piano sat Malik, dressed in a crisp black suit, a boy who had once been dismissed as background noise. Now, the nation waited for him to play. He took a deep breath. The lights shimmered like ghosts returning home. Then, the first note. 30 seconds in, something magical happened. On the screen behind him, unseen footage appeared. Caleb Brooks, years ago, sitting at the conservatory piano after hours, his rough hands gliding across the keys. The melody raw, unrefined, but unmistakable. The audience gasped. Evelyn's tears fell freely. Malik kept playing, blending his father's recording with his own live performance. Past and present merged. The sound was no longer just music. It was resurrection. Every note carried decades of silence breaking open. At 45 seconds, a news clip flickered on Anton Varga's muted TV. He watched himself in replay, the applause echoing through a house built for no one. His face pale, every accolade on his shelf suddenly meaningless. The screen reflected his own downfall. The applause not for him, but for the man he stole from. The bridge built, the tempo rose. Malik played like someone possessed, like he was channeling not just skill, but lineage. Then, the final note. Soft, sustained. It echoed through the hall like prayer. The crowd rose as one. Thunderous applause. Evelyn sobbed openly, whispering, "He did it, Caleb. He did it." Malik stood, chest heaving, eyes wet. And for the first time in his life, the applause wasn't for pity. It was for power. At the 1-minute mark, the host took the mic. "We stand tonight not just for a prodigy," she said, voice trembling, "but for every voice erased by arrogance and every hand that still dares to create in spite of it." The hall erupted again. People shouted, "Caleb Brooks lives on." And in that moment, Malik looked up at the sky, whispering, "Dad, we're finally heard." He was told to play for fun. But what he played was truth, raw, undeniable, and centuries deep. A truth that said genius doesn't wear a tuxedo or carry a famous name. Sometimes it's born in small apartments, raised by single mothers, and silenced by systems that confuse poverty for lack of talent. Malik Brooks didn't just play music that night. He restored a legacy. He proved that no title, no gate, no prejudice can bury what's divine in someone's soul. And somewhere, in the quiet between the final notes, a father's dream came home. Because in the end, justice isn't always delivered by judges or journalists. Sometimes it arrives through a piano, and a son brave enough to touch the same keys that once betrayed his father. This is Black Stories, where the pain of prejudice is told, and justice always finds its voice. If this story moved you, like this video and share it. And if you're yet to, subscribe. Because sometimes the loudest revolutions don't happen in the streets. They happen in rooms filled with silence, when one voice finally dares to be heard.
Años exactamente, bueno, no exactamente, ¿no? Un grupo de soñadores en La Paz decidió fundar algo que trascendería generaciones. El glorioso Club Bolívar. No imaginaron que... Oye, me he esforzado al hacer el discurso. ¿Qué ponen ZZ, chat? Basta, me he esforzado, se los juro que me he esforzado, bro, basta. Por favor, me he esforzado en el discurso, respétenme un poquito, chat. Bueno, igual lo voy a leer, me la chupan, la verdad. Chat, nefastos. Son unos envidiosos, ¿saben? Son unos envidiosos. ¿En qué me quedé? No imaginaron que ese nombre se convertiría en un sinónimo de grandeza, lucha y de orgullo nacional. 101 años después, Bolívar no es solo un club. Es un sentimiento que se hereda, que se sufre y se celebra. Últimamente sufrimos mucho por Robato, ¿no? Es el latido de miles de hinchas que en cada victoria y en cada caída nunca abandonan, ¿verdad? Nomás. Porque ser celeste no es una elección, es una forma de vivir. Muy bien, qué lindo, un aplauso. Bravo, bravo. Muchachos, tremendo discurso. Buenas noches, Edito, ¿cómo estás? Por lo menos ponte tu chompita, pues, un busito para leer el discurso. A ver, cállate, Gabo, ¿vos quieres ser baneado? Este discurso lo he hecho en mi cama, pensando en lo que es ser bolivarista, la verdad. Un aplauso, por favor, y con ayuda también del gran ChatGPT. Un aplauso para ChatGPT. Ah, ¿cuál era la finalización de un ratito? Dice... que estos 101 años sean solo el comienzo de muchas más llenos de alegría. Felicidades, Academia. Felicidades, Bolívar. ¡Bravo! Aplausos para ChatGPT, muchachos. Para vos no, dice. Buenas noches, muchachos, ¿cómo están? Gracias por estar aquí, perdón por prender tan tarde. La verdad estaba viendo mi serie, estaba viendo el regreso de Justin Bieber. Bueno, toda la tarde me vi fútbol, hasta vi el partido del Tigre, vi el partido de River, vi el partido de Oriente, las declaraciones de Martins, tremendo lo de Martins, bebé, le tiró palo a Villegas, pero bien tirado. Huevada, en su cama lo hizo todo pajeado pensando en el... No, ¿qué dice este Arielito? Oye, ¿quiénes vamos, no? Mi sobrino de quienes redacta mejor. Dile eso a ChatGPT, yo no he redactado. ¿Qué me estás molestando a mí? Felicidades. Qué pasado. Pues la verdad nomás. ¿Qué quieren que les diga? A ver, ¿qué les puedo decir, muchachos? Yo no publiqué nada en mi página, la verdad no hice nada estos días. Han sido momentos difíciles. Bien triste, ¿no? Mentira. Pero no, muchachos, bueno. Quiero felicitar a todos los que son bolivaristas y hoy en día más que nunca, ¿no? Que es difícil ser bolivarista en el sentido de todo el contexto que estamos pasando con el técnico. Pero si lo ven por el otro lado también hay que sentirnos orgullosos porque hemos llegado a estos 101 años. Creo que como la institución mejor parada, tanto económicamente, futbolísticamente y dirigencialmente diría, pero no, creo que no, ahí nos falta, ¿no? Ese eslabón para poder ser una institución sólida. Y como ayer creo que lo decía Dardo Gómez en su publicación en el Cholet, que Dios mío, ¿de dónde cagan tanta plata, bebés? Más fuegos pirotécnicos que en el aniversario de La Paz, no mames. Tremendo, felicidades a los del Cholet, y a ver si pasan pues algunos monies. No mentira. Que dijo que el dirigente tiene que estar siempre al lado del hincha. Y eso es mucha verdad. Y no es por darle palo a Claure, porque él tendrá sus funciones, las cosas que tiene que hacer. Pero creo que por esa parte que estoy... Uy, ¿qué? No, todavía no va a arrancar la fiesta, Tucán, tranquilo. Y por esa parte creo que está bien, ¿no? Está bien. Y bueno, se vienen unas futuras elecciones donde el principal candidato es Dardo Gómez a seguir manejando lo que es este club tan bonito que es Bolívar, ¿no? Por detrás, obviamente, yo creo que tiene que haber gente que lo asesore. Espera, ¿mi gatita se echó pipí? No, ya, más bien. Me ha asustado, chicos, la verdad, me ha asustado. Ya saben ustedes, rayada está mi gatito últimamente, ¿no? No, ¿qué dice este Eddie Pox? Y bueno, muchachos, nos espera, creo, un futuro grandioso. Yo lo dije, creo que esta es una oportunidad ya con el estadio de una vez establecernos como un club de fútbol, pero serio, y fuera de ser autosostenible, que se proyecte a más, ¿me entiendes? No estancarnos en solo ser un club boliviano, sino ya empezar a soñar con, no sé, a ver, por ejemplo, la venta de butacas en el estadio, venta de marketing, merchandising, que se vaya ampliando más las sociedades, ¿me entienden? O sea, yo creo que si una cabeza maneja bien todo eso, creo que podemos despegar, ¿me entiendes? Y no estar ahí creando leyes de mierda con el gobierno, pidiendo perdón para que nos perdonen los impuestos, ¿no? Los gatos, ¿no? Entonces, creo que, o ser un club que está a punto de desaparecer, como Wilstermann, que desapareció de la liga, pero está a punto de desaparecer, pero absolutamente de todo el fútbol. O ser clubes que le están mangueando el auspicio a la UTV y chupándosela al presidente de la federación por subsistir. Entonces, creo que Bolívar es muy grande y tiene, creo que, trascender. Eso es lo que nos falta, trascender, dar ese pasito para trascender y lograr los objetivos que siempre hemos querido, ya sea una Copa Sudamericana o una Copa Libertadores, ¿no? Y siempre tiene que ir de la mano. Estos últimos años, creo que es la verdad, se han ido alejando a las generaciones bolivaristas, al hincha común, al hincha fanático, a todos los tipos de hinchas se han ido alejando del club, por justamente el mal trabajo que se ha ido realizando estos últimos años en Bolívar. ¿Qué decía Valdivia? Creo que dijo que dejó un club autosostenible. O sea, sí, no vamos a decir que no. Económicamente creo que se dejó un club autosostenible. A ver, Solís, no pidas Gartic. Ya les he dicho qué cosa de Gartic. Hoy día es aniversario del club. Déjame hablar a ver de mi club, Solís. Igual en el grupo de WhatsApp, no, Tucán, jugaremos Gartic. No quiero dibujar huevadas, déjame, no voy a jugar Gartic. Ya les he dicho, si quieren dibujar, agarren un cuadernito y empiezan a dibujar sus huevadas. No me vengan a molestar a mí con su Gartic. Saludos, Reyisita, ¿cómo estás? ¿Todo bien? Gartic, temática Bolívar. No, métanse su Gartic por el poto, ya les he dicho. Y bueno, muchachos, ¿en qué estaba? Es que me niego, muchachos, cada vez Gartic, basta, no quiero jugar Gartic. Vayan a jugar Gartic con sus minas. Goklingo, huevadas hablas. Ya, espera, ¿qué habla este Ignacio Loza? Este Auri. Y bueno, muchachos, creo que sí, yo me quedo con eso. Este martes tenemos un partido muy importante en lo económico. Para mí, muy importante para ver qué está el club de cara a este año. Porque creo que es indispensable ganarle a ese equipo. En Copa Libertadores, obviamente por los 3 puntos y más, pero pensando a futuro, creo que es muy importante que se vea buen fútbol, ¿no? Y que la gente ya esté un poquito más tranquila con el funcionamiento del equipo. Ayer contra Bebé, bueno, el día sábado contra Bebé, se jugó un buen partido, no digo que un malo partido, creo que empezaron a aparecer personas, o bueno, jugadores que no estaban apareciendo, como es el Papu Velázquez, y muchos más, ¿no? Entonces, interesante. Y bueno, apareció Cauterucho, que en el partido de Libertadores no había aparecido ni de sombra. Parece que Cauterucho solo le mete goles a equipos como ABB. Y preocupa un poquito eso, ¿no? Hoy ganó el Tigre, está puntero con nosotros. Nacional Potosí también está compartiendo la punta con nosotros y muchos más que vienen bien entonándose en lo que es este torneo, ¿no? Que empezó retardísimo y creo que nos va a pesar no solo a nosotros, sino a los demás equipos que están participando en copas internacionales, ya sea Blooming el caso, ¿no? Y otros más. Mete gol equipo chicos como Dorniro, pero Dorni ni jugó. ¿Qué dicen, chicos? ¿Qué dicen? La era Robato es la peor de todos los tiempos, bebé, tomando en cuenta el centenario que es una vez en la vida. Sí, es la peor. De los últimos 10 años, ¿se podría decir que lo de Robato es lo peor que nos pudo pasar? A ver, piensen. Es que con lo que me dice el técnico de, a ver, Ustedes pónganse a pensar, si tu técnico te dice que el objetivo era solo clasificar a Libertadores y que no estaba obligado a ser campeón, puta, ahí me la bajó mal, amigos. Sinceramente, me la bajó mal. Podía aceptarle todas sus huevadas y todo, pero cuando dijo eso, es como que hizo sentir me hizo sentir un club más del montón, ¿me entiendes? Un Nacional Potosí, una Aurora, no sé, otros equipos bien X. Así me hizo sentir, la verdad. Por eso yo vuelvo a repetir, yo voy a hablar de lo que veo en la cancha y este martes si es que Bolívar gana se va a aplaudir y si es que Bolívar pierde, bueno, también se va a criticar algunas cosas y si han fallado en algunas cosas igual vamos a criticarlas, vamos a observarlas y vamos a dar nuestro criterio. Pero fuera de eso, Robato no puede venir a achicar el club, ¿me entiendes? O sea, creo que hemos tenido el parámetro y la vara de estos últimos años, bueno, desde que yo nací, desde que voy a la cancha, creo que el parámetro ha sido que Bolívar siempre salga campeón, ¿no? Bueno, un ratito vamos a banear al Gaby.